What up, what up? Welcome to my channel where we're doing music covers, original music, album reviews, song reviews, reactions, tier lists, whatever the day calls for. If you like what you see here, please subscribe to the channel. If you have content on here, I will subscribe to you as well. I am all about supporting up-and-comers on here. My original music can be found at robcary.bandcamp.com. I have one album to my name right now. It is called Communication. It is quite a few years old now. That album can be heard in full there. And I am in the studio working on the follow-up to that album. It will be called Ugly Living, and we are so close to getting the first single out to promote this thing. It will be called Save My Life Again, and if all goes according to plan, I'm hoping to release that single, the track list of the album, and the album cover all at once. That's the plan. So we're looking for an August release date for all of that. I have some short snippets on here of me self-performing little bits and pieces of clips that will be on my new album. I think there's like 6 of them right now. I want to do more, and I will do more, but anybody who has checked those out, I'm so grateful. Today we are getting into the brand new album, Incarnation, from the Australian metalcore band In Heart's Wake. This is a band where I was a huge fan of their first album. I actually have a couple guitar covers on this channel from highlight tracks from their first album. Survival, Shapeless. I kind of fell out of their sound after that. It became very generic. I feel like with this band, when the musical spark kind of went out with these guys, there was more of a lyrical spark where they were kind of using their musical platform to advocate for taking care of the environment. While I stand by all of that, I just kind of found the music after their first album to just be kind of lazy. The clean vocals weren't really my cup of tea. And after a couple albums of just your run-of-the-mill risecore, metalcore kind of thing, they came out with the track Orphan. And not only was this the most brutal and gritty thing that they had done in a long time, it didn't sound like we were hearing a heavier version of In Heart's Wake. It sounded like we were hearing a heavier band than them altogether, like just a totally different beast. And that definitely invigorated my interest in this band and wanting to check out where they're at this point in their career. Like Orphan is just noise on top of noise on top of noise, but I say that in the best way possible. With their clean vocalist leaving, I was wondering, is this going to be the direction that they move towards going forward? And when I listened to this album in full a few times, no, it is not. This album is definitely much better than what they've been doing for quite some time, but it still definitely struggles to find its identity in a sea of metalcore bands. Let's just kind of go through the track by track here. We got the opener, Spitting Nails. What makes this track unique is it's railing against the system, and there's lyrics in here that suggest that the person that penned the lyrics may have gotten screwed by the system, and I can relate to this song lyrically probably more than any of the other ones. I really like the lyrics on this one, but it very much is musically and lyrically and vocally metalcore by the numbers. Hollow Bone, the next track, it's more the same with. And then we got number 3, The Flood, featuring Parkway Drive's vocalist Winston McCall. I was very skeptical of this one because Parkway Drive kind of was like the worst offender with their last album of some of these metalcore bands going the mainstream butt rock octane kind of route. Like, of all the bands that have been choosing to go that route, they did it the worst, in my opinion. And my expectations for this track were not high. It ended up being just kind of like a mid kind of song, and mid is kind of the word I would use to describe like this whole album. Like, the following track is Orphan. There's nothing else on this album that sounds like that. Like, it's a really good way to get people that have kind of fallen out of love with this band to come back in hopes for something more gritty and abrasive, but that didn't happen with this album as a whole. It is still just kind of unidentifiable in a sea of other metalcore bands. And you got number 5, Gen Doom, where it's just like the lyrical message, the vocals, and the songwriting. Everything is just, once again, not bad, not great, just okay. Then you got number 6, Shishigami. This one's a little bit heavier than the others, and there's a little bit more in the breakdown department and the heaviness department that would draw you in more than some of these other songs. I would consider this one a highlight track, but there's still just a lot of like generic tropes. Like, I really like this era of metalcore, but I feel like I'm hearing it on an algorithm here. Like, this album is very average. Then we got number 7, Tyrant. This song, by this album's standards, is definitely a highlight. It's got some thrashy parts that I wish had a little bit more to it, but a lot of the generic tropes of an era of metalcore that is only going to resonate with people if it's done really, really well is done just kind of by the numbers here. Like, you got to really, really be wanting that nostalgia to appreciate this album. That's what I'm going to say. Like, I'm going to do a quick run through of these last 3 tracks. We got Feeding the Dead. This one does kind of sound like a Divination B-side. This is definitely a highlight track. Everything is done very well here, but if you are not looking for late 2010s metalcore and that nostalgic trip, this isn't going to do anything for you, but it's done very well here. Like, number 9, Mishigama. I think there's a guest on this one. I'm not sure who it is right now. I got to look at it later, but they're bringing an Attila energy here. And as cringe as that might sound, after hearing this by the numbers metalcore for 8 songs, hearing somebody do these like ridiculous raps and stuff like Franz would do, it's actually like a welcome change. Number 10, Shell Shock, and number 11, Transmission. Both of these are highlight melodic hardcore tracks. And it's kind of unfortunate that it takes this long to get to the cream of the crop of this album, but these last 2 songs are where this album really shows its worth. But at the end of the day, this album is very average. I've heard much worse, and I've heard much better. That's all I can really say about it. I'm going to give it a 2.7 because there are some lyrical passages that I would like to hear. I was hoping for something better. I was worried about something worse. It's just right in the middle. It's mid. This is probably the most mid metalcore album I've heard this year. There's nothing I can say like, holy fucking shit, this is terrible, but there's nothing that's blowing me away either. I feel like I'm on an algorithm of late 2010s metalcore by the numbers. So I'm going to give this a 2.7 out of 5, with a couple highlight moments here and there that take it above a 2.5. If a year had gone by and somebody asked me, what do you remember about In Heart's Wake album Incarnation, I would say I remember the opening track having lyrics really just saying fuck the system. That's what I'm going to remember more than anything else. I'm going to give this album a 2.7 out of 5. It is very average. It is very mid. There is nothing I can say that is terrible. There's very little that I can say that is great. It just kind of sits in the middle for me. And I hope if we hear from these guys again, they just have a little bit more to say musically. And that's all I got to say about this one. Until next time, thanks for watching.